Welcome back to the Thinking Talmudist series. I'm sorry I wasn't here last week. I was away for the weekend and I missed all y'all. But I heard that Rabbi Busko did a marvelous job.
Excellent.
Yes, he did a great job with the Thinking Talmudist series. So today I want to do a different piece of Talmud related to this week's Torah portion. But before we do that, I want to just introduce that before we know that we learned before that the way the Talmud works is it many times segues from topic to topic and then circles back. Oh, we were in the middle of talking about this. We're going to get back to it now, right? So we're going to see some of that happen here now. We are in Tractate Avodah Zarah, and in this page 11a, okay, and we're going to see a very interesting discussion that goes on over here in our Talmud. Okay, so the Talmud begins like this. The Gemara relates the story of another righteous Roman. The Gemara previously was talking about a righteous Roman. You'll see soon it'll get back to where it started off. Okay? Onkelos bar Clonimus Igayer. Onkelos, the son of Clonimus, converted to Judaism. Now, if anybody is familiar with Chumash, with studying the Chumash and reading the weekly Torah portion, we know that the most incredible translation of the Chumash is by Onkelos. Onkelos is in Aramaic. He translated the Torah, and it's not really a translation, but more commented on the Torah, but word for word commentary, so to speak, which can be seen as a translation. And it's in every single print, just about of the Torah, you'll find Onkelos, the translation of Onkelos, right there. And Onkelos was a convert, and we'll see an interesting story about Onkelos. Shadar Kesar Gunda de Roimaya Basrai. The Caesar sent a troop of Romans after him. Mashchinhu bikroe, but Onkelos enticed them by citing verses of the Torah, and Igayur, and they too converted.
Good.
They said a few verses, and they were like inspired. He explained it to them, and then that's it. They converted. Hadar, Shadar, Gunda de Roimai, Achrina Abasre. The Caesar then sent another troop of Romans after him. Amar Luhu, Lo Temru Le Velomidi. Don't say anything to him. Because you're going to say something, he's going to respond back with a verse, and then, you're going to convert also. So just don't say anything. Okay, so he says, Lo temrule, don't say anything. Velo midi, and nothing. Just don't communicate. Just bring him to me. Ki havu shakal v'hazlu, and as they were walking, as they were taking him along with them, Amrulu, he said to them, Ema luchu milsa be'alma, let me tell you something trivial. Okay, Nifyora nokat nura kamei pifyora. He says the Nifyora holds the torch in front of the pifyora. Okay, Nifroya. Okay, Nifyora holds the torch in front of the pifyora. What does that mean? Okay, pifyora leduchsa. Right, the pifyora is in front of the duchsa. Duchsa lehagmona. And Duksa is in front of the Hagmona. Hagmona Lakoma, and the Hagmona in front of the king. What is he talking about? Right? So if you look here at the commentary, the comment says these were titles of Roman dignitaries in ascending order of rank. Those lower status would carry the torch for those above them. Thus, the Nifyora, who was the lowest rank, would hold the torch for the pifyora. A pifyora would hold the torch for the duksa, and so on. Right? Everyone would hold the torch for the one who's of greater stature than them. So now the Gemara continues, the Talmud continues, and he says, Koma minokit nora mikame inshe. He says, and now would the king hold the torch before the ordinary people? Right? We see that the lower hold it for the higher, and then they hold it for the higher above them, right? In ascending order. But would the king hold it for the people? Amruluhu, they said to him, Amrulay, no, of course not. Since when would the king hold the light for the people? The people hold light for the king. Amra Lahu, uncle has told them, HaKadosh Baruch Hu nakat nura kamei Yisrael, the Almighty God, King of Kings, the King of the right, who holds the torch before the Jews. Dichsiv Hashem holech lifneim yomam, as it is written, and Hashem went before them by day, right, in a pillar of cloud, and by night the pillar of fire to give them light. Gayur kulhu, they all converted to Judaism. Right? You have the place in your Talmud over there? You have it? You found it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Hadar Shadar Gunda Achrinu Abasrei, the Caesar then sent another troop after him. Amralu, and they instructed him, Lo tishto midi behadei, do not discuss anything with him. Ki nakte le ve'azli, and when they were taking him along with him, chaz mezuzta the manachta apitcha, he saw a mezuzah that was affixed on his doorway. Osif yidei Allah, he put his hand on it. Ve'amralahu, and he said to them, My hai, what is this? Amrulei, they said to him, Emelon at, you tell us. What is this? What is this mezuzah that you're touching? Right? Amralahu, uncle said to them, Minhago shel olam, it is the way of the world that Melech basar v'dam yoshev b'bifnim, that the king of flesh and blood sits inside his palace and right, sits inside his palace. Ve'avadav mishamrim osam b'chutz, and his servants guard him from outside. The king is inside, and the guards are encircled around. Ve'ilu HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but the Almighty King of heaven and earth, Creator of all, King of kings, you know what he does? Avadav mibifnim, his servants, Israel, the Jewish people, are inside. V'hu mishamrim b'chutz, and he guards them from the outside. Right? Shenemar Hashem yishmor tzeischo v'yechem atolam me'ata ve'adolam. As it is stated, Hashem will guard your departure and your arrival from this time and forever. Agayur, they all converted to Judaism. Tu lo shadar basrei, the Caesar did not send them any more people. Now it happens to be I think the commentaries explain that this Roman Caesar was his uncle, and he wanted to bring him to try to persuade him out of what he was doing. So he says this is, by the way, one of the sources that we touch the mezuzah when we pass by it. Right? Now many people have a custom to kiss the mezuzah, right? They put their hand in and they kiss it. It's not an obligation to kiss it, but there is an obligation to touch it, right? To touch it. And I remember one of my great rabbis, when I was in high school, he would stand by the mezuzah and he would hold his hand on the mezuzah, and he would focus, like bringing the presence of the Almighty into his life, that recognizing that God is protecting us and God is the one who watches over us. And he would do that every time he passed the mezuzah, and then he'd continue. He wouldn't kiss it, because sometimes you get caught up by that, and you don't realize what the real purpose is. And here he just wanted to internalize the message, internalize the idea. So this is the source for the custom of touching the mezuzah upon passing through the doorway. All right, the mezuzah presents harmful forces from entering the room, which is why many times, if God forbid a tragedy happens, what people do is they go to a rabbi, they want a blessing. The rabbi many times will say, check the mezuzahs. Right, and I heard a story not long ago where a man, his son was very ill, suddenly became ill. It's probably not good. I think it's a little.
Yeah.
There's milk over there in the bottom. Make another one.
Turn your heart.
Okay. So the rabbi says to the father, I want you to check your mezuzahs. And they checked the mezuzah, and the sofer was shaking. He says, is it a son or a daughter who wasn't well? He says, because the word that's missing in your mezuzah is, when it says, V'shinantam levanecha, you should teach your sons. That word was missing.
Wow.
So he immediately got it fixed, and the child was healed.
Wow.
So it's an unbelievable, right? The mezuzah protects. I will tell you, now I know you'll think this is crazy, but when we moved into our house that we just moved into, if someone is renting a house, then they have 30 days to put up the mezuzah. But if they're living in the house, they need to put up the mezuzah immediately. Now, we were in the transition of moving into the house. It was like, we didn't fully move things in yet from the old house. It was like, a couple of days. And during those couple of days, I remember we had a bunch of crazy things happen. My wife was cutting something and she cut her hand. And my son was doing something and he banged his head. And it's like, my wife says, we have to make sure that we have all the mezuzahs checked. We have to make sure that and it's very interesting. So to our kitchen, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different doors. One of those doors was missing a mezuzah. One of the doors, and it's like we didn't realize it. It's like the side, we didn't realize it, and all of these things happen in the kitchen, right? And we put up that last mezuzah, and it stopped. It was like one thing after another. One kid banged his mouth, was bleeding, and the other one's like it was like things happen. Put up the mezuzah, and what he says here, it's an amazing thing. He says that the Talmud of Menachos says that the mezuzah prevents harmful forces from entering the room. And it's a very interesting thing. Anybody have those little robot vacuum cleaners?
No.
Right? So if you know those little robot vacuum cleaners, how does it know when to go into a room and out of the room? Right? If you just leave it, it's going to go and it's going to go from one room to the other room to the other room, and you want it to only stay in one room. You don't want it to go into your bedroom, wherever, So they have these little magnets that you put on the doorway, and you can hardly notice it, right? Sometimes you put it on both sides of the doorpost, and that way it sort of creates like an electrical barrier, and it doesn't go through, right? So that's your mezuzah. Your mezuzah is your spiritual barrier that doesn't allow a negative force to come into the room. Mm-hmm. It's a very, very powerful idea, and it's worthwhile for everyone to it's a big mistake that some people make, is that there's this trend where people only have a mezuzah on the entrance to their house, right? According to halacha, you have to have it on every single room, every single doorway in the house, except for those going into a closet which is very small, which is less than 8 foot by 8 foot, or a laundry room which is less than 8 foot by 8 foot, or a bathroom. A bathroom doesn't need it to begin with, even if it's larger than 8 foot by 8 foot. But the idea again is we need to make sure that we protect our homes. And God says, "Listen, I'm your protector, right? You can put it on your doorway." Now it's very interesting. Before we moved to the Torch Center, we were in an office building, and I remember we had many African American neighboring offices. And I remember one of the ladies asked, she says, I pass by your door every day, and I see this thing on your door. What is it? I said, it's an alarm system, right? She's like, really? It's a brilliant idea to have an alarm system right there on the door so everybody notices, right? Obviously, it's not connected to any technology except for our spiritual antennas connecting us with the Almighty, where the Almighty protects us, and that's our alarm system to remind us of His presence at all times. But it's an important thing, and the halacha tells us that we need to be extremely cautious to make sure that the mezuzah does not become pasul, does not become invalid. Because sometimes, for example, if you have a mezuzah on the outside of your house, because in Houston, we have very high temperatures in the summer. You can have a sun beating on your mezuzah. Now you have to understand something about any parchment that has writing on it, like a Torah, a tefillin, a mezuzah. You see, when you write on a piece of paper, the paper absorbs the ink. When you write with ink and quill on a parchment, it does not get absorbed in the paper. It dries on top of the paper. So if you have a high temperature, it can run. And it'll run off. I've seen it myself. Times where it was exposed to extreme heat or extreme cold, by the way. Because extreme cold, it could just pop off the parchment. Right? So you have to be very careful in extreme temperatures like we have here in Houston. And what you have, I have this at least for the front of my house, a mezuzah cover which is vacuum sealed, so that the temperature doesn't get in there, or the humidity doesn't get in there. It's very important to know. Now, I've had many people over the years bring me mezuzahs to the Torch Center and ask me to check it. And I was very, very saddened by many of them that they did not have a kosher mezuzah in there because it was paper. It was not parchment. It was not proper. It was a photocopy. And you have to be very, very careful to know that a mezuzah, right? How much do people pay for an alarm system? People pay a lot of money for an alarm. They could pay, from anywhere from $30 to $50 a month for a subscription, and then you pay for them to install, to put on every window. And then people complain when they say a mezuzah is $50. They're like, oh, that's exorbitant. That's crazy, right? Here's Hashem telling you, I'm protecting you.
Yeah.
Right? I'm protecting you. So, something to think about. Okay. So that is the end of that piece of Talmud. I think it's very, very interesting. We learn about Onkelos and the power that he had of clarity, the power that he had of persuasion through the words of the Torah. Okay, the Gemara returns. Yes?
So families that purchase a mezuzah at some gift shop, and it's really on paper, it's more like photostatic copy.
Right.
That's a non-kosher
It's a non-kosher mezuzah.
And they're sold as a kosher mezuzah.
And that's a big problem. It's called, what are they called when they sell fraudulent
Fraud.
items? Fraud, right. That's what it is.
What's
It's like
called?
going to Chinatown and expecting that you're buying a Gucci belt and it's not really a Gucci, right? It's exactly the same thing. It's absolute fraud.
Yeah, knockoff.
It's
Mezuzah knockoff.
exactly. And you know what?
It's sold all over the place.
And
I
it
see
is
all
sold.
the
And
time.
people tell me that they go to Jerusalem to some gift
That's
shop
right.
and they buy a mezuzah. And
You
the
see
problem
it
is
there.
that many people think that the casing of the mezuzah is the mezuzah. It's not. The casing is just to
It's
beautify the
so
mitzvah. It
Right.
really is the parchment that is the mezuzah, right? And the parchment, you have to be careful to make sure that it's authentic parchment and that it's written by a qualified sofer, not someone who's sitting. There was a whole bust that they made in Israel. They found women in Gaza sitting in a basement of a building writing mezuzahs, right? Not even Jews.
Wow.
Right?
Oh.
You have to be careful to know where it's sourced, who wrote it, and that it's really, really authentic and that it's been
Is
done
there
properly.
some kind of, like the kosher food, it has a mark?
Yes.
Okay.
There are. That's where you only go to someone you know and trust. In Houston, we have Rabbi Grunitsky. He is a certified sofer stam, meaning he writes Sefer Torah, Tefillin, Mezuzot, and all other Judaica that he writes. He writes it here in Houston. And I buy my mezuzah from him. He actually, not only that, he actually has a service where he'll come to your house, take all your mezuzahs down, check them all, and return them all in one day.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Really amazing. And I had him do it. I had him do it for me. And he came to my house. He took down all the mezuzahs. He unscrewed the little screws on the bottom. He took out the mezuzahs, checked them all, and if there was anything wrong, he fixed them. Right, and if there's anything that needs to be replaced, he'll replace them. Right, and that way you have kosher mezuzahs. It's not very expensive at all. All right, the Gemara returns. Any other questions before we continue? Okay, great. The Talmud returns to its discussion about Antoninus and Rebbe. This section begins with the prophetic message conveyed to Rebekah, this week's parsha, when she was carrying Jacob and Esau. All right, so we know the verse says, "Vayomer Hashem lo." Hashem said to her, to Rebekah, Shnei goyim bivitnech, two nations are in your womb. Now it's interesting that, just as a side note, some people think when they hear the word goy that it's derogatory. It's not true. Goy means nation. It says that the Jewish people are a goy kadosh, a holy nation, right?
Yeah.
You're saying goy means nation. It's not a derogatory term as like heathens or that's not what it. Right? Goy means a nation. Right? So here we see again in the prophecy given to Rebekah in this week's Torah portion, she gets a prophecy from God saying you have two nations in your womb. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav that this verse can be interpreted as follows. Al tikri goyim, don't read it as goyim, which means nations, but rather ela gayim, right? Read it as gayim, which refers to proud ones. Right? What does that mean? Ze Antoninus veRebbe. This is an allusion to Antoninus and Rebbe. Who is Antoninus and Rebbe? Let's read. The two proud ones to whom the verse alludes were the Roman king Antoninus, who descended from Esau, and the Jewish leader Rebbe, who descended from Jacob. Rav Gedalia Shor, one of the great modern-day commentaries, great sages, explains that the prophecy concerning the destinies of Jacob and Esau came to fruition in the unique relationship between Antoninus and Rebbe. Ideally, Jacob, Israel, and Esau, Rome, were meant to enjoy a harmonious and complementary relationship. Esau, the Ish Yodei Tzayid, the man who knows hunting, right? It says in Genesis 25:27, was supposed to defeat evil, while Jacob, the Ish Tam Yoshev Aholim, the perfect man who dwells in tents, was to promote good. Had Esau fulfilled his role, he would have been equal to Jacob. The Midrash states that 6 tribes should have emerged from Jacob, and 6 should have emerged from Esau. But this did not transpire. Esau failed in his task, and both roles were adopted by Jacob. For a short time in history, however, the ideal relationship was realized by Antoninus and Rebbe. And now we'll learn more about that relationship. Okay. Shelo paskum al shulchanam lo chazeres v'lo kishos v'lo tznon. For neither lettuce nor cucumber nor radish ceased to be found on their tables. Lo b'yamos hachamov, lo b'yamos hakshamim. Neither in the summer nor in the winter. The Amar Mar, these vegetables facilitate digestion, as the Master has said. Tznon mechatech ochel. Radishes cut the food. Chazeres mehapech machol. Lettuce turns the food over. Kishus marchiv me'ayim. And cucumbers expands the intestines. Anybody here need a doctor? Well, we got it all here in the Talmud. Right, the Talmud tells you exactly what these foods do. And commentary number 12 here is Rebbe and Antoninus were proud in the sense that their wealth allowed them to constantly serve lavish amounts of food to their guests. The food was so plentiful that it was always necessary to have vegetables at hand, which aid in the digestive process. The Gemara cannot mean that Rebbe himself ate liberally, because it is reported elsewhere in a different Talmud, Ketubot 104a, that Rebbe abstained from worldly pleasures. At the time of Rebbe's passing, he extended his 10 fingers heavenly-ward and said, Master of the universe, it is revealed and known before you that I toiled with my 10 fingers in the study of Torah and did not benefit from worldly pleasures, even as much as toil of my little fingers. I didn't, even with the little toil of my fingers, I didn't enjoy of the food. Alternatively, the Gemara points out that Rebbe and Antoninus were wealthy enough to afford these vegetables even when they were not in season and had to be imported from distant lands. All right, so we see that they were here men of great wealth. Here the Roman king Antoninus, the leader of the Jewish people Rebbe, right? And they got along very well. Apparently, the Gemara questions the health benefits of cucumber. Okay, but in the academy of Rabbi Shmuel, he taught the following brisa: Lama nikra shmon kishuin. Why is cucumbers called kishuim? Mipnei shekoshin legufa shel adam kecharavos. You know why this is called kishuin, which means kasher, which means difficult? Because they are injurious, they're kashin, they're difficult to a person's body as swords. So why are you saying here that there's a swords? So why are you saying here that it is beneficial to the health? So the Gemara answers. Again, so there's a contradiction. In our Talmud it says it's great for the body, it's great for it expands the intestines. And then we bring from a different Talmud elsewhere that it says that it's kashin. That's why it's called kishuin, because it's difficult for the body. So the Gemara says lo kash. It's not a contradiction. He says ha beravri, where it says that it's not good for you. In this second statement, that cucumbers are harmful refers to large ones. Ha bezutre, whereas the first statement vis-a-vis that cucumbers are beneficial is referring to small ones. So the small cucumbers are very healthy for your body. The large cucumbers are not good for your body. All right, and that's why there's two different referring to cucumbers, both cucumbers. One is large cucumbers, one was small cucumbers. Now, let's see if the commentary here. Okay, Either way, the Gemara quotes from the Mishnah, Yom HaLeda v'Yom HaMisa. We're just going to continue a little bit further. Any questions so far on this? Anybody don't want to know any more health benefits?
So pickles are good.
Pickles are great. Pickles are great.
The other day I was having digestive problems, so I took 3 pickles and ate them without eating the skin, and I felt better.
Oh, good for you. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, you come to Torch for all of your digestive needs, right?
Come to Torch, and Torah study helps me when I'm not feeling well.
You know what it says? It actually says that in the Talmud.
Really?
Yes, it says that the Torah is marpeh, the Torah heals someone.
Ah.
Right? It's an amazing thing.
Good.
Right? Well, it is. It's true. It's a health. It's a health. It says. It also says that Torah mateshas kol shel adam, that Torah weakens a person. It says that also. The Torah, because when we study Torah and we get immersed in Torah and we forget to sleep and we forget to eat, so we get weak from it, right? But here at the Talmud Lunch and Learn, I'm sorry today, probably Ed is shopping someplace, right? But hopefully next week he'll be back. And so that's a very interesting Talmud that we learned about Antoninus and Rebbe, and let's continue over here. The Gemara quotes from the Mishnah. Rabbi Meir says that it is prohibited to do business with pagans 3 days before the emperor's birthday and the day of his 3 days before the emperor's birthday and the day of his death. However, the sages say that business is forbidden before the anniversary of the emperor's death only if the death was marked by the burning of his personal articles. The Gemara analyzes Rav Meir's view. Michlal di Rabbi Meir Savar. From this Mishnah, it follows that Rabbi Meir maintains Lo shna misa sheyesh basreifa, v'lo shna misa she'ein basreifa. It makes no difference whether the death of the emperor was accompanied by the burning of his articles, or whether the death was accompanied by the burning of his, or not accompanied by the burning of his articles. Pal cheba lavodas kachavim. Either way, the pagans worship their deity on it, the anniversary of his death. They worship that. Alma sreifa lav chukahi. Thus, according to Rav Meir, we see that burning of the king's articles is not an idolatrous ritual. Michlal de Rabbanon Savri, from which, we will see soon in the commentaries, from which it follows that the rabbis maintain Sreifa Chukahi, the burning of king's articles, is an idolatrous ritual. So according to Rav Meir, it's not, and according to the sages, it was. Let's see some of the commentaries. The anniversary of the emperor's death is treated as an idolatrous holiday throughout the reign of his son who succeeds him. Right? So if he died on January 1st, then every year while his son lives and maintains power to his father's throne, right, every day, every January 1st would be an anniversary where it would be a special idolatrous holiday. Since Rav Meir applies the prohibition even in the case of an emperor whose articles were not burned, I don't know what this thing of burning is, it is clear that in his view the anniversary of any emperor's death was automatically designated as an idolatrous festival. Thus, Rav Meir does not necessarily regard the burning of a religious ritual as a religious ritual that the people performed for the sake of their pagan deity. It could be a secular display of honor to their king, which they carried out only if they considered the king important. By burning the emperor's personal effects, they express the idea that no one else is important enough to use them. And that's what the commentaries Rambam writes as well in their commentary, that the idea of burning their possessions is that no one is worthy to possess them after the king. It's interesting Talmud here. The rabbis, it says, who applied the prohibition only on the emperor's article, if the emperor's articles were burned, apparently held that the burning itself was an essential part of the religious service. The pagans would not worship idols on the day of their emperor's death without also burning his possessions. If there was no burning, it is evident that there was no idol worship on the day of their death or its anniversary. So it's an interesting thing because the Torah tells us that we're not allowed to spill our blood or make markings on our skin when someone close to us passes away. And now we understand a little bit why, is because we can't physically harm ourselves or make a tattoo or some marking. The only thing that we do is cut our clothes. It's very interesting. Why do we cut our clothes? Why do we cut our clothes? Because really, what are we? Are we flesh and blood, or are we a soul?
We're soul.
You're a soul. What gets taken at death?
Soul.
The soul. So what we're saying is the body is just the clothes of the soul. So when we tear a garment, we're saying this person didn't really die. The neshama lives on. But it's the clothes that got torn. It's the clothes that deceased, that ended to live. But really, the neshama maintains its life. And the more mitzvahs one does, and the more a person invests while they're alive in spiritual actions and deeds, so that spiritual existence continues to live on. Which is why we say Kaddish after someone passes away. Why there's a mourner's Kaddish where, for 11 months we say Kaddish, and we every year at the anniversary, and many people learn in their memory. The idea is that it brings holiness back into that existence of that soul. It gives more merit to that soul. That even after it's checked out, it still gets its residual income from mitzvahs that are performed in its honor. Any other questions here? Let's see if there's another piece. So over here he goes into the whole discussion of what happens after a king dies. Not only burning his possessions, it talks about other things that they would do special when kings would die. Let's see over here. It had previously. Okay, so the Gemara has a couple of other stories about Antoninus and Rebbe. The Gemara relates, this is in also 11a, but higher up on the page. Okay, the Gemara says, the Gemara relates several exchanges between Rebbe and Antoninus. Amar le, Antoninus once said to Rebbe, Mitzaran li chashuvei rimoi. The dignitaries of Rome are persecuting me. Rebbe responded cryptically, Me'ayil le legina. Each day he would bring Antoninus into a garden. Kol yom okar le pulga mimishra kameh. And each day he would pluck a single radish from its bed in front of Antoninus. Amar, Antoninus said to himself, Shma mina hachi ka'amar le. Learn from this that Rebbe is advising me thus, At ketol chad minayu. Kill them off one at a time. Right? He was learning from this that Rebbe was giving him a cryptic message here, kill them off one at a time. Velo titgare behu bekulu. And do not contend with all of them at once. So you take one out, and they take another one out, and they take another one out, and slowly they won't gang up against him. All right, the Gemara continues. Another story.
Does this tractate tell the story about Antoninus asking him why Shabbos is so delicious?
Yeah, I believe it does. I think it's here actually. We'll see further. So the Gemara wonders why Rebbe advised Antoninus in this enigmatic fashion. Shouldn't he have spoken this clearly? Just say it outright. What are you giving a hint with cutting? The vegetable, cutting the radish one at a time. What's going on? Right? The Gemara answers. Omar Rebbe said, "Sham e bi chashuve Romi." The dignitaries of Rome will overhear me, and they will persecute me. The Gemara persists. He should have spoken it quietly. The Gemara answers, "Mishum diksiv ki of hashamayim yolich es hakol." Rebbe avoided even this because it is written, "For the bird of the sky will carry the sound, and a winged creature will betray the matter." one can never be sure that a private conversation will remain a secret. You know, it says the walls have ears,
Yeah.
right? And where do you think it comes from, right? Right, so the Talmud says that Rebbe was concerned that even a bird will hear it, the bird will transfer the message over to right. It's interesting. Maybe we'll do the Talmud that talks about what the birds say. The birds, they hear our conversations. They know what's going on, and they communicate among themselves. Like, oh, here's the guy. He's pulling out of his driveway again. You know, right? Right. So either another cryptic exchange between Rebbe and Antoninus. Havale ahu baraso dishmei gira. Ishma Gira. Antoninus had a daughter, and her name was Gira. Ka'avda Yisura, who committed a transgression. Antoninus wished to seek Rebbe's counsel on the matter, but was concerned that it might become a public scandal. So he therefore conveyed his request for advice in an obscure manner. Shadar le Gargira. He sent Rebbe a rocket herb. It's called Gargira, conveying that the heart of his daughter Gira had been drawn, or nigrar, towards sin. Shadar le kusbarto. In response, Rebbe sent him a coriander, which is called a kusbarta, meaning that he should execute, which means kus, the daughter Barta.
Ooh.
Right? He should execute his daughter. Shadar le karte. Antoninus sent Rebbe a leek, which means karsi, to say that if his daughter dies, he will not have any descendants. Karte, right? It'll be cut off. He's not going to have. Shalach le chasa. So Rebbe sent him back a lettuce, chasa, to signify that he should have mercy. He should be chas on her. Chas means to have mercy, right? So that's the way they communicated. Right? You imagine. So right, the king sends a rocket herb. He gets a response of a coriander, and he gets a response of a leek, and he gets a response of a lettuce, and this is a normal conversation.
And at the end of it, they have a nice salad.
Exactly, that's right, that's right. Right. Another story of Rebbe and Antoninus. But you see how brilliant this conversation is, right? Another story of Rebbe and Antoninus. Kol yoma havashadale dehava pericha bimatrosa. Every day Antoninus would send Rebbe crushed gold in leather sacks. V'chiti akumayu. And he would put wheat at the opening to hide its contents. So he would have a sack full of gold, and then on the top he would put wheat, and people would think, oh, it's wheat, right? And he would send it with a messenger to Rebbe. Amar luhu, he would tell his messengers, am tiyu chiti l'Rebbe. Bring the wheat to Rebbe, he would say. Amar le Rebbe, but Rebbe said to them, Lo tzruchino, I do not need the gold. Isle tuva, I have already plenty. I have plenty of gold. Omar, Antoninus replied back to him, Lehevu leman de basroch, let it be for those who come after you, your children. Let it be for your children, let them have. It says, Diyavel basrei, who will give it to those who come after them, your grandchildren. The osu basroch, because both those who will come after you, your children, with the asuminayu, and those who will come from them, your grandchildren, nepukalayu, will need to pay my successor with it. So he says, take this money because your children and grandchildren will need this money to pay for my children and grandchildren who are going to tax them, right? Instead, Antoninus understood that he was in a unique position here. It's very interesting. Let's see what the commentaries say on this. Commentaries say, Antoninus, fearing that the Roman kings who follow him would levy exorbitant taxes on the Jews, wished to lighten the load on Rebbe's family by providing them with the funds with which to pay these obligations. Right? The sacks were opened, only wheat would be seen and not gold. Right? That's why it was covered like that. Interesting that I'll see the commentary on the previous Talmud that mentioned about the daughter. So it says some interesting things here. It says, Rebbe knew that Antoninus would not have sent him an herb except to convey a message. He correctly divined that the herb's Aramaic name, Gargira, was intended as an allusion to two Hebrew words, Gira, which means his daughter, and Gerar was Gerar, she was pulled, she was drawn to sin. The message, therefore, was that Gira, his daughter, had been drawn towards the adulterers. Karte, he sent him back Karte, in similar to the Hebrew word kares, which means to cut or to kill. Antoninus thus meant that by executing Gira, he would be severing his own bloodline. It appears that his son Asverus had died already. If her death will mean the end of the bloodline, leave her alone. Right? Other commentaries, any of the early commentaries, object to Rashi's approach. They hold that the daughter had not committed a crime deserving of execution. And if this punishment was appropriate, Rebbe would not have changed his mind about it. Rather, they explain that Rebbe's use of the coriander kursbarta, which we said, which means to cut her off, was meant to convey that Antoninus should hide. Kase means to cover or to hide the shame of his daughter and rebuke her only in private. But Antoninus misunderstood Rebbe's message and thought that Rebbe was advising him to execute her as in kus. Rebbe therefore had to clarify his original intent, and therefore he sent the lettuce, which is chasa, which means chas, have mercy. Right? Interesting Talmud here.
Yeah.
Right? So there's another Talmud here about Antoninus and Rebbe. Another exchange between Antoninus and Rebbe. Havile hahu nikirta. Antoninus had a certain cave. The havio ayla mi beise lebeis Rebbe. He had a cave that went from his house to Rebbe's house. Kol yoma hava maisi tore avdi. Each day he would bring two servants to accompany him through the cave. Chad katle above debe Rabbi. He would kill at the door of Rebbe's house before entering. V'chad katle above the beise, and the other one who would accompany him back home, he would kill at the door of his own house. Amr le Antoninus told Rebbe, Be'idne de asina. When I come to your house, lo nishakach gvar kamoch. Nobody should be found with you. Okay, so that's why he killed him. He didn't want anyone to know that he was spending time with Rebbe. Yom achad, ashkechel Rabbi Chanina bar Chama dahavi Yosef. One day when Antoninus went to Rebbe's house, he found Rabbi Chanina bar Chama sitting there. What's he going to do now? Nobody's supposed to know. Right? So what's he going to do? Omar, Antoninus said to Rebbe, Lo aminu lach beidnu da'asina. He says, did I not tell you that when I come to you, right, lo nishakach kvar kamoch, nobody should be found with you. Omar le, Rebbe responded to him, Leis dain bar inish. This is not a mortal. This is not a regular. Omar le, Antoninus said to Rebbe, Ema lema le lahu avda digoni abova dekoim velesi. If so, let him tell the servant who is sleeping by the door to wake up and come in. Right? Ozo Rabbi Chanina bar Chama. Rabbi Chanina bar Chama went. Ashkechei dehava kotel. He found that the servant had been killed. He wasn't sleeping; he was dead. Omar, he said to himself, Heichi Avi, what should I do? If I return and tell Antoninus that this servant has been killed, I would violate the rule. Right? His instruction. Ein meshivin al kalkola. Right? One who is sent on a mission should not report back with bad news. So he says, Ash bekeve ezel. But if I leave him and go on my way, then I'm insulting the king. So what does he do? So Rav Chanina bar Chama prayed to God to have mercy on the dead man. The Aryeh, and he revived him. Vishadere, and sent him to Antoninus. Omar, Antoninus said, I know that the least among you can resurrect the dead. Right, the least among you, among the Jewish people, can resurrect the dead. Nevertheless, when I come to your house, no one should be found with you. right? Still, make sure this doesn't happen again. The Gemara describes how Antoninus would serve Rebbe. Kol yoma hava mishamish leRebbe. Every day he would wait upon Rebbe. Antoninus, the king, would wait. He would serve Rebbe. Machile, he would serve him food. Mashkile, he would serve him drinks. Ki hava boy Rabbi lemesak lepurio. When Rebbe wished to climb into his bed, havi gochin kamei purio. He would bend down before the bed, Amalei, and say to Rebbe, Sak ilvai lipurioch. Climb upon me into your bed. Right? Omar, Rebbe protested him. Lav orach alu zalzulei b'malchusa kulehai. It is improper for me to treat the throne so disrespectfully. Omar, he replied to Rebbe, Mi yasimeni matzah tachtecha le'olam haba. If only I would be the mat beneath you in the world to come. Right? If only I could be the dirt under your feet in the world to come. Antoninus understood what Rebbe was. Rebbe and Antoninus discussed whether Antoninus will enter the world to come. So, Omar Le, Antoninus asked Rebbe, Yosino la'alma da'asi, will I actually come into the world to come? Enter into the world to come? Omar Le, Rebbe answered him, yes, you will. Omar Le, Antoninus asked him, V'oksiv ve'lo yeh sorid lebeis Esav. He says, but is it not written, and there will not be a remnant of the house of Esav, which implies that descendants of Esav, the Edomites, the Romans, will not enter the world to come. But Esav, Rebbe responded, that verse speaks only if one acts in the manner of Esav, but if you don't act in the manner of Esav, which Antoninus did not, but rather in a righteous way, then he has a place in the world to come. The Gemara interrupts this narrative to corroborate the last point. Tanya Nami Hachi was taught it was also taught in a brayso, V'lo yehei sarid l'beis Esav. Scripture states, and there will not be a remnant to the house of Esav. Yachol akol. It could have been that this applies to all Edomites. Talmud lomar l'beis Esav. To dispel this notion, the Torah states to the house of Esav. Be'ose mase Esav. By naming Esau, it teaches that only where the Edomites acted in the manner of Esav is he condemned, otherwise he may enter into the world to come. The narrative is resumed. Amar le Antoninus asked Rebbe, V'oksiv Shama Edom Melocheha V'chol Nisieha. But is it written there in Gehinnom, which is purgatory, is Edom, her kings and her presidents? Apparently, all the leaders of Edom are assigned to Gehinnom. Amalei Rebbe replied to him, Malocheho v'lo malocheho. Right? Milocheho v'lo milocheho. He says that verse states her kings, but not all her kings. Okay? V'lo kol milocheho. It says, Kol nisi'eo v'lo kol soreo. Furthermore, it states all her presidents and not all her ministers. Right? The Gemara corroborates this interpretation. Tanya Nami Hachi, we see elsewhere, Milochel v'lo kol milochel. The verse states indeed her kings, but not all her kings. Kol nisi'eo v'lo kol soreo. All her presidents and not all her ministers. Right? The Brisa names two Roman leaders who merited a portion of the world to come. Milochel v'lo kol milochel. When the verse says her kings and not all her kings, Prat l'Antoninus ben Asveros. Right? It excludes Antoninus, the son of Asveros. And Kol Nisiel v'lo kol Sareo, when it says all her presidents and not all her ministers, Prat l'Ketia bar Shalom, to exclude Ketia bar Shalom. The Gemara recounts the story of the righteous Roman minister Ketia bar Shalom. Ketia bar Shalom Havi. What is the story of Ketia bar Shalom? Dahu Kesara Dehavi Sani li Yehudoi. There was a certain Caesar who hated the Jewish people. He hated the Jews. Amar leila chashive de malchusa. He asked the dignitaries of the kingdom, Mi she'ololo nima biragle. If dead flesh develops on someone's foot, yikta'ena v'yichya. Right? What do? You should cut it off and be healed. Right? If you have dead skin, you cut it off and then you'll be healed. O yanicheo v'yitztar, or should you leave it and suffer? The Caesar, alluding to the Jews, asked his advisors whether he should annihilate them. Amar lei, they responded to him, Yikten or v'yichya. Of course, you should cut it off and then be healed. That is, eliminate the Jews. Amar lei Ketia bar Shalom, Ketia, the son of Shalom, advised them against doing so for two reasons. First, because you will not be able to overcome them at all. Okay? Because they are scattered around the world. You'll never be able to. We're scattered all over. Right? Before giving Ketiya's second reason, the Gemara elaborates on the first. Okay? Dichsiv, ki ka'abu ruchas hashamayim peirasti eschem. The verse in Zechariah, right? It says, as it is written, for like the four directions of the heavens, I, God, have scattered you. Right? So, Micah Amar, what does this verse mean? If you say it means that God scattered the Jews in all four directions, what is the intent of this phrase, like the four directions? What does it mean, like the four directions? He either spread them in all directions, and then it's not like, he really did, right? Or he didn't. It says, it should have said, in the four directions. Ella, rather, God was drawing an analogy between Israel and the winds. Kishem she'iev shelo olam below rucha is just as it is impossible for a world to exist without winds. Kach iev shelo olam below Yisrael. So is it impossible for the world to exist without Israel. Just like the world doesn't exist without wind, the world doesn't exist without Jews. And therefore, what he was trying to tell him in his first reasoning is that you'll never get him, right? You'll whack-a-mole. You hit him here, it pops up there. If I hit him here, it pops up there. The Jewish people, you can't get rid of them. The second reason, given by Ketia bar Shalom to the Caesar, V'od, furthermore, if you eliminate the Jews that are under your authority, Karulach Malchusa Ketia, you will be called the ruler of a severed kingdom, because part of its population has been eliminated. Amarlu, the Caesar said to Ketia, Mimar Shapir Ka'amrit, you have indeed spoken well. In Yiddish they say, gut gesagt, you said well. Okay? Mihu kol dezochi limalka, however, the law dictates that whoever prevails against the king, shadule likamunya chalila, is cast into a round chamber, kad haven noktin leiv ozlin, as the Caesar's men were taking him and going to the chamber, amrole hahi matronisa, a certain matron called out to Ketia. He says, Vaile ilfa de azle below machso. Woe to the ship that goes without having paid its taxes. Nofal al reishe de urlate. So Ketia fell on the top of his foreskin. Kto, and cut it off. Omar, he said, Yahavis michse. Now I've paid my tax. Chalfis v'avris, I shall leave this world and pass into the world to come. Kika shadule, as they were throwing him into the chamber, Omar, he said, Kol nichsai Rabbi Akiva v'chaver, of all my possessions should go to Rabbi Akiva and his colleagues. The Gemara explains how this gift was divided. Yotzer Rabbi Akiva v'dorish, Rabbi Akiva went out and expounded the following verse, V'hoisa la'aron u'lebanov. It says about the lechem apanim, the showbread, right, shall be to Aaron and his sons. By mentioning Aaron separately, the verse equates him with his sons, from which we derive that mechza Aaron, half of the loaves were given to Aaron, umechza levaner, and half were given to his sons. So here as well, since Ketia singled out Rabbi Akiva by name, he presumably meant that half of his possessions should be given to Rabbi Akiva and half to his colleagues. So they gave Ketia's possessions half to Rabbi Akiva and half to. The story of Ketia is continued. Yatzabas kol v'amra. A heavenly voice emanated and proclaimed, Ketia bar Shalom mizuman l'chayol haba. Ketia bar Shalom is ready for life in the world to come. Bacha Rebbe v'Amar, Rebbe wept and said, Yesh kona olama b'shah achas. There is one who acquires his portion of the world to come in 1 hour. And there is another who acquires his portion of the world to come only after many, many years. Amazing, no? Amazing pieces of Talmud here. Right? The Gemara elaborates further on Antoninus and another righteous Gentile. Do we have time for this one? Yes, we'll do it quickly. The Antoninus waited upon Rebbe. Antoninus Shamshe Rebbe. Adarkon Mishamshe Rav. Adarkon waited upon Rav. Kishochiv Antoninus, when Antoninus died, Omar Rebbe said, Nisparda Chavilo, the bundle was unraveled. Kishochiv Adarkon, when Adarkon died, Rav Omar, Rav said, the bundles, Nisparda Chavilo, the bundle is unraveled. What does it mean the bundle is unraveled?
That prayer, that.
One second. It says, the love that bound our souls together can no longer thrive. Right? They had such a great love between them, between Antoninus and Rebbe, that now it was like it can never be put back together again.
Remember that saying from the Torah, Nafshi Kushura V'Nafsho?
That's correct. All right, there's one more story
Their
here.
souls were bound up together.
There's one more story here, but we'll get back to
unravel
this. We'll get back to this at a later date, my friends. All right? Have a terrific Shabbos. Thank you so
Shabbat
much.
shalom.
What a beautiful Torah study.
Thank you.
Yes.
Beautiful,
Thank you.
beautiful.
Appreciate it. Go on Facebook, like them, share them, so all your friends can learn with us. And to all of our friends online, thank you for joining us. And we hope you'll come visit us live here at the Torch Center every Friday at 12 o'clock with lunch. With lunch. Have a terrific Shabbos, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
And Chodesh Tov to everyone.